All right, y'all, what is going on? This is your man L Jamal coming through with another edition of Never Out of Bounds. Of course, this is the place where you can say what you want as long as you got them facts. Today, it's going to be a serious episode, a more somber tone. There's a lot of big issues that I wanted to talk about today before I got into the little issues and the little things of the world, such as our sports on my podcast. So, this is just going to be another, I guess, intermediary episode. I plan to get back to that podcast tomorrow. Of course, I'm not neglecting the YouTube channel either. It's just that I've neglected the podcast to do this for a while, but we will be back to that shortly. But like I said, there's a lot of serious stuff to get into, so let's get right into that, and I'll get into a little bit of the podcast, just a little bit more if I have some time, or as we go along. So let's start off. Of course, we know about the shootings that have went down over the course of this week in Kenosha, Wisconsin, starting off with that of one Jacob Blake, 29-year-old black man, resident of the Kenosha, Wisconsin area. He was shot 7 times by police, leaving him basically paralyzed from the waist down. Now, according to the officer's report and what they told to the media, they were responding to a domestic incident, and according to their account, Blake refused to comply and also was able to go around to the other end of his car and, according to them, was reaching for something, and that ended up being a knife, according to them. Although there was no knife recovered, I have yet to see a knife. There, didn't seem to be any evidence of him really reaching for anything in the car at that point in the video. More so, just him going to the car. So again, this is a eyewitness account. They went on to say one of them had him in a headlock and was punching him in the ribs. After they finished punching him in the ribs, the female officer tased him. The officers also corroborated within their story of tasing him as well. I don't know how he got away from their custody and was able to get back to their car, or back to his car, only to have them walk up on him and shoot him again, or shoot him. Maybe they told him to go back to his car to retrieve some type of ID, and maybe they changed their mind. I don't know. But I have an issue with unarmed people being shot, especially when we have an armed suspect here, Kyle Rittinghouse, shooting up 3 people, killing 2 of them, leaving one seriously injured. And he somehow, I'm not saying he goes free. He didn't go free, because of course he's facing 6 charges as we speak. One of them being homicide. So he didn't get away per se, but it's just funny to me how the unarmed guy gets shot, and the guy who's armed, who's actively dangerous, doesn't. It just doesn't equate to me. Maybe there was some type of compliance with the shooter. I didn't see where the black man was posing any threat. Maybe there was some non-compliance. Maybe you can see that. It's hard to see that in the video because, of course, you can't hear what's going on. So again, who knows really what was going on. He is alive, so he does have a chance to actually state his case. Of course, it's going to be between him and the officers now at this point. So again, at least Mr. Blake has something to say. He'll be able to say something. But again, if we're finding some type of, I would feel as an officer, if we're finding some type of threat from an unarmed black man or some type of unarmed black civilian, then wouldn't you feel some type of threat from an armed white individual? I don't know how that doesn't translate. I think we're just going to have to, at some point in time, just have to call it like it is and say that there's some bigotry going on in these institutions. And you cannot outright name one person a racist. Racists apply to the institutions as opposed to the individuals, but you can downright call a lot of these people that are not only, of course, the officers that are committing these shootings, but the people who are trying to push this aside and trying to find some type of way to demonize these people, whether it's Breonna Taylor, whether it's Oscar Grant, as we heard in the past that they tried to do with him. They're also trying to do the same with Mr. Jacob Blake as well. They're trying to demonize these people. I have a problem with that. At the end of the day, regardless of what this person may or may not have done, that's not relevant to the fact of whether or not they needed to get shot. There was no weapon in the man's hand. There was no way for them for them to really prove that he had a weapon. Again, this is their account. Of course, the police, public's gonna, well, the media or the police is gonna have their say about it, and we are forced to go from there. One thing I will say is, of course, there is going to have to be some changes on the legislative level, the judicial level as well. We're going to have to start prosecuting these police. That's really what it's going to have to come down to. But with that being said, that's not being done just yet. But one thing I can say is to the younger brothers or just brothers in general, try to, as much as you can, try to avoid situations where the police might come. According to the police, there was, like I said, a domestic incident, so they had grounds to come there. Somebody called them. Apparently, according to the person that called the police, they weren't necessarily being super cooperative, but according to that person that called, apparently Blake had took her keys, or his or her keys, or was doing something. And if you're, so again, you gotta avoid them being called at all costs. Now, again, that might be avoiding certain situations, avoiding certain people, but again, we gotta avoid that here, because again, it's like they have a green light, and compliance, no compliance. Honestly, I don't think it really matters. Breonna Taylor was shot in her sleep, so again, compliance is bullshit. Again, you just got to just call yourself on it and just say, look, I am a bigot, or something, and just come to terms with that and just say that I'm okay with black people getting shot by the police. Again, because if an unarmed black man poses a threat, then an armed white man should pose an ultimate threat, and he should be terminated on sight if he has a loaded weapon and he has just committed a murder, a double murder on top of that. So that's my personal opinion. I'm going to move on from that. Of course, there has been numerous or widespread responses to this, as well as we had with George Floyd's murder as well, and also Breonna Taylor's murder as well. Of course, starting in Kenosha, Wisconsin, but also spreading this week into Washington, D.C. They would have a walk-on march where, you had various civil rights leaders show up. Also, George Floyd's sister. I personally liked, Martin Luther King III's speech. He went on to talk about what the Republicans are actively doing as we speak, as in terms of stripping us of our Voting Rights Act. They failed to renew that, and that clears the way for them to be able to take away our right to vote, disenfranchise us. So who knows what will happen in a second Trump term? We can say that Trump has given us these jobs. We can say that he's done whatever he did with the economy, whatever could have lasted up until this point, coronavirus. But we have to say that he's enabled racism in the society. He's also taken away numerous of our rights, a lot of our rights as well on the surface. So underneath the surface. So we can look at the jobs, we can look at the surface things like the economy, which we've never really struggled in for a very long time, and we can sit there and look at those very minor victories and say, yes, the unemployment rate was down, but now we will not be the unemployment rate. Think about it this way, black people. The unemployment rate has been the lowest that has ever been under Trump's candidacy, but you won't have the right to vote in his second term. How do you feel about that? Fuck a job. I'd rather have the right to vote and be able to go to school and be able to afford certain things and be able to go against this government when it's time to, using my vote. Every vote counts, or your community involvement. If they're going to strip away your rights to vote, they're going to strip away your right to be politically active. So that's what they're doing. So again, we have to look at all those things. We can look at that payroll tax, that executive order about that, and say, yes, we're going to have a bigger paycheck. But again, you won't have any retirement money, and they're still shooting you. The police are still shooting you. He should have focused on signing an executive order that makes shooting unarmed people, whether they're black, white, whatever, red, whatever, a crime. He should have made that an executive order, but he took away your payroll tax, so now you don't get Social Security. So y'all think about that. Not only did it affect us, the average Joe, all these shootings, and of course we responded. Of course, in the sports world, the NBA was probably one of the poster childs for responding to this. They pretty much led the way throughout the course of the week. Of course, this was their playoff time. We have the final playoff game underway. Of course, the Lakers and the Blazers. I believe that is Game 5. That's going on underway. But the last couple of days, they said, "Fuck it, we're not going to play. We're going to take a step back from this." try to our best to educate people, let them know what's going on, and we'll move from there. Of course, the fans didn't like that. Your average fan has nothing else better to do outside of his job and his little social media accounts, and so it bothered him. So he, of course, the average fan, of course, the more conservative white fan, of course, took to social media and had his 2 cents to say about how LeBron is out of touch, about how LeBron might speak about racism in this country, but is signed to a company like Nike who uses sweatshop labor. But yet and still, he says that about LeBron, but wears Nikes and Nike products and all those products from those sweatshop companies himself. So he needs to shut up. Okay, so we have a lot of armchair politicians, a lot of armchair, activists or non-activists out there who just like to just talk random stuff and just talk what they feel from their Fox News or even their liberal standpoint. They're lost. They want to be quote unquote woke. They want to be, alt right. Alt right woke movement. It's just ways to get caught down specific rabbit holes that you don't need. You need to get away from a lot of that conservative liberal BS. Both parties are rigged. Both parties are foul. You have a party within the Democratic Party who is exploiting you in certain ways, who is not addressing the black issues at some point. We also have the Republican Party who's also doing the same, and not only they're doing that, they're pushing, they're supporting the racism, they're co-enabling the racist institutions and the bigots as well. So you have to look at those from both sides. And after the election, I would like to suggest to black people and all people in general to not only look outside. Well, maybe if you're not super extreme on doing this just yet, then maybe look outside who the caucus and who the caucus is pushing for their Democratic nominees. Maybe we need to look outside of that. Maybe we need to look outside of who the GOP is pushing for their primary nominees if you're Republican. Maybe even look outside of the two major parties in general and look at maybe the Green Party. We have the Peace and Freedom Party. We have so many different parties. We have the Libertarian Party. So many ideologies right now. I think the two-party system and the bigotry that's we're starting to see, they're vestiges of an old age, and we have to move on. And it's time for us to modernize, and part of that is at least cooperating with each other. It's not about saying kumbaya, my lord, we all have to intermingle and be all intertwined. No, we just work together. We just make business together, and we let go of stupid add-ons like, is he LGBTQ? Is he black? Is he Mexican? Does he have papers? We need to let go of all those stupid status symbols we want to put on each other and just kind of work with each other. Like I said, these movements would also affect the NBA as well. Like I said, they would cancel playoff play for a couple of days. Many people speaking out, including Doc Rivers. He went on to talk about his father, who was a policeman as well, and just talk about how it's not about defunding the police, but it's about making sure that they're protecting us. And they're not protecting black people. They're not protecting a whole lot of other people. They are protecting these corporations, and they are protecting rich people and the rich in general. So we'll get into all those type of concepts later, because of all this, I plan on getting into the history of the police forces and why they're here and really what they're here to protect as well. So we're going to get into this on that channel as well, but that's at a later time. But also this would affect not only basketball, but baseball as well. A couple teams canceled games over the week, such as the Oakland A's. The manager Bob Melvin went on to say, I think that everybody felt the same way, that there are bigger things at stake here. There are more important things than baseball, and even though you have a job to do. Second baseman of the A's, Tony Kemp, went on to say we can no longer stay silent. So again, it's not just about your sport. It's just not about picking up a ball and doing whatever comes with that. It's about being cognizant of what's going on in the world and having a voice about that. And there's nothing wrong with people speaking out against what's wrong. Don't have people having you feel bad about that or having you feel some type of way about that. That's their issue. We have a right to speak out about what we feel is wrong. It's our First Amendment. Now we've decided This is also a quote coming from Tennessee safety Kevin Byard. There was a lot of NFL teams that kind of took the day off just to kind of, again, not just to take off just to not have a day at practice, but it was a day of community for the team, kind of discussing what's going on. Black players, white players, everybody, coaches, staff, just kind of talking about what exactly is going on, how people feel about it, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's this wave of right wing thinking and also contrarian blacks and whatever that just kind of just sniff on that and just spit on that like it's some type of pain. No, it's people coming together. There's nothing wrong with people discussing what's wrong in the world. It doesn't matter if it's a football team. It doesn't matter if it's a classroom. It doesn't matter if it's a fucking job site. You can do that shit and be mature about it without going at nobody's heads. You don't necessarily have to agree. You don't have to convert each other. It's just about the discussion of it. Stop being so narrow-minded. Everybody. Again, Kevin Bayard went on to say, we've decided that it's time to take a stand today. We wanted to show solidarity and that we were tired of seeing our brothers and sisters being murdered like it's nothing. We need to change as soon as possible. And by all means, as much as I love the activism about seeing these players doing what they do, and I'm all for that, I also feel like we're going to need legislative and judicial law. Sorry. Again, Trump should have been putting an executive order that checked the police, not taking away the payroll tax. That just shows you where his mindset is at. Okay, think about it. He takes away your retirement, and you're getting shot at by the police still. Think about it. That's part of your retirement. Payroll taxes, pay that. Sorry, y'all. He got us again. He duped us. Sorry, he duped us. I thought this was an interesting quote coming from Tennessee quarterback Ryan Tannehill. He went on to say, it's sickening to know that they have to worry, referring to us, that they have to worry about their kids coming home at night. You're right, bro. And it's BS. This has to be addressed on a federal, state, all type of levels. Police need to be checked. I don't know about necessarily defund, but there needs to be some changes out here, y'all. And until we see something like that, you're going to still see some problems. And like I said, we need to maybe think about getting outside of that two-party box. Maybe you might have to vote libertarian or something. Who knows? A couple deaths to talk about before I let y'all go. Of course, Chadwick Boseman, he had stage 4 colon cancer. He had been dealing with this since 2016. It had actually elevated from a stage 3. He has, like I said, he never disclosed this, so we never knew about this. Of course, he played Jackie Robinson in the movie 42. That was his initial breakout role. He's a Howard University graduate. Of course, his biggest role was that of T'Challa in Black Panther. There is a film of his coming out this year called The Five Bloods. He was also in a film last year called 21 Bridges. This one was a shocker. Was not expecting it again because, again, he never disclosed anything. Finally, one more passing. We have NBA great Clifford Robinson, formerly of the Portland Trailblazers. Spent 18 years in the league, playing for a few different teams. The Nets when they were in New Jersey. He also played for Phoenix, Golden State as well. Like I said, he got his real claim to fame with the Trailblazers, though. He was a Sixth Man of the Year in 1993, All-Star in 1994. He was also an all-defensive second-team member 2 times in his career as well. He played in over 460 consecutive games, which is a franchise record. He also places 5th, I believe, in points. Also, I believe it was 10th overall in rebounds for the team. Also 7th all-time in three-point shooting. He's one of those big men that broke the mold, one of the first few that can have a shooting range as well as being kind of a force in the paint or rebounding as well. So it's an unfortunate loss there as well. A lot of things going on this week. So I'm going to let it go for now. Tomorrow I will be back with the podcast. Hopefully, maybe tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon. We'll see what goes on. But for now, y'all, I'm going to call it a wrap. Like I said, it's getting somber. I had to record in the dark to kind of reflect that. So it's just a sad look. It's just some things going on. But I think overall what we need to do is there's some overall reflective thinking we need to do. As a people, especially black people as a nation, how we conduct ourselves and how we treat each other. And of course, how we want this nation to look at us as well. So I'm going to let the somberness take over. Think about it. I'll let it all fade out like this. Kind of glad how it worked out. I refused to turn the light on just because I wanted to just kind of tell you. It's just, think about it, y'all. hear my voice if anything. You know, there's a lot going on right now. Um, a lot of violence that we didn't need. He didn't need to shoot them people like that. The police didn't need to shoot that man like that. And we have to look at what's causing all this. Is it being contrived? Is it not being contrived? Is it just circumstances? Are they pushing something bigger than what's going on? You know, so there's a lot we have to think about, y'all. All right, I will be back tomorrow, like I said, with the podcast. I will be leaving some links for that. It's called Never Out of. It's called the same thing as it is here, but I will be leaving those links on my social media on here as well, just so you guys can all be connected. Again, I know I'm in the dark, and I told you it was somber, it was serious. I'll have to talk to y'all later. It's time for some thinking, y'all. All right, and then on my personal end, I'm sorry about everything, how everything is being edited the past couple of weeks. I've been working on trying to get some apps together, some software together. I'm using a Chromebook to do all this. Not the greatest idea. It worked at the time because of my budget, but I'm learning some things about technical stuff. So it's not probably the best thing right now, so bear with me, y'all. I'm also dealing with that as well, and just also personal changes. Nothing life or death, but, you know, things that keep you busy and keeping you, you know, reflective. You know, so I'm working on this, y'all. Bear with me. I'm gonna keep coming out with the heat for y'all. All right, y'all. Good night.